Hello and welcome to Talking 419. I'm Steve Kendall. The Ohio Department of Higher Education is a cabinet-level agency for the governor for the state of Ohio. It oversees higher education for the entire state. And for this debut edition of Talking 419, we're joined by the agency's 10th chancellor. He's a familiar name and face to those in northwestern Ohio. He was a state legislator for a long time. He now is, of course, famous across the state. We introduce Randy Gardner, the 10th Chancellor of the Ohio Department of Higher Education. Thank you so much for joining us here. A familiar face, a friend of the station, and a great supporter of Bowling Green State University as well, so we appreciate that.
Great to be with you, and what I understand is the inaugural program of 419 Talking.
Exactly.
How about that?
Yeah. Now, as I mentioned there, you were state legislator for a number of years, quite a few years, and the transition you made, being a senator and a representative for all those years, now you're sort of sitting a little bit on the other side of the table. So talk about the move that you had to make there, because that had to be a little, you'd been elected.
Right.
There's a little bit of a decision to say, right, I'm representing a constituent, now I'm representing
right,
this entire state agency, and basically
right,
every student, every faculty member, anyone who has anything to do with higher education
right,
across the state. So talk about that mindset a little bit.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Actually, 12,106 days. If somebody wants a trivia question that nobody else in Ohio cares about, that's how many days I was a member of the House and Senate. So 33 years, 2 months. It was just a fantastic experience and privilege to be able to serve in the state legislature. So I knew the day would come someday, although some people were probably wondering, is the day ever going to come when Gardner's not in the state legislature? And then when it happened so quickly. I really didn't anticipate being chosen as chancellor. All of a sudden on a Wednesday afternoon on January 9th, I received a phone call from the governor's people, and they said they were going to make the appointment. And the very next morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, the governor was going to make the announcement statewide. And then 5 days later, I'm sworn in. So I had the transition just happened so quickly.
All right.
And I decided to do so for a couple of reasons. Number one, I probably had just 2 years left in my Senate term and probably would not run again for the House of Representatives. Right. Likely not. I thought I had done, I worked pretty hard to try to accomplish a number of things, and while I still had a lot of passion to serve, this governor, Mike DeWine, is the most engaged statewide elected official I've worked with in 34 years.
Okay.
I have emails at 5:35 a.m. and text messages at 11 o'clock p.m. to share or to basically confirm that he's one who listens and he wants to act with a sense of urgency. Those are the two themes that he really embedded in the cabinet on our very first cabinet meeting. Right. So I was excited to accept it. I wasn't certain that it would be necessarily the career move that I really wanted to make, because how would you know for sure? Sure. But there has not been one day in the last 9 months plus that I haven't been glad that I did. And there's new things to learn, there's new people to meet and work with. I have been on 72 campuses around the state already. I've always believed you can't do these jobs sitting in an office in Columbus. So I've learned a lot by being on campuses, and so it's just been a great experience. But the key, one of the key benefits, I still live in Bowling Green. Sandy and I live in Bowling Green. Children live in Bowling Green, and it has given me more opportunity on the weekends to spend a little more time at home.
That's good. Sure.
Versus at least driving from Archbold to Sylvania to Bowling Green to Vermillion to back to Port Clinton and to North Baltimore and back home. You know, those are the kinds of days I had in the state Senate.
Right.
Now it's a lot of traveling around the state, 72 campuses, but it's a different type of schedule in terms of the weekend, and the week's a lot of time in Columbus, a lot of time around the state. But the transition's been a good one. It's different when you officially represent or at least work for one person. Right. Governor DeWine, if he so chooses, can replace the chancellor any day he prefers. In fact, when I got the job, I'll just tell one quick story. Sure. I got the job, I told my oldest son that I was going to be chancellor. He said, "Chancellor?
So what is that? Yeah, what's that about?
He said, how long is that term?" And I said, "It could be a week."
It could be an hour.
He goes, "You signed up for that?" And I said, "Yep." Yeah. So I kind of explained it, that you serve at the pleasure of the governor. And so I hope it's already been more than a week, and it's been 9 months or so. But working for this governor and trying to tackle some of the important issues in workforce preparation and training, as well as traditional colleges and universities, what they bring to the table in the state, is just a great opportunity. So I'm glad I'm doing what I did, but I will always say this: I would never have been given that opportunity if the people in Wood County and other counties in Northwest Ohio hadn't given me the opportunity to serve in the state legislature first and have that kind of career. So it all starts with people in this area of the state that honored me with their votes for all these years. So I almost always find the need and the want to say those things, because you never take those experiences for granted.
Sure. Well, and the governor, by selecting you had always been in the legislature an advocate for higher education. So that, of course, I think played into the decision as well. He knew he was getting somebody who had a foot in there, and his heart was in it too. Well, someone who didn't just treat it as another particular initiative that happened to come along. You were a strong advocate for higher education all those years.
An advocate and someone who knew the governor in one capacity or another since 1990.
Right.
Mike DeWine. So we think pretty much we knew what we were getting when I stepped into that job, and he knew, and so it's been a great experience so far, and I'm excited to do it.
Yeah. Now, as you've traveled around the state and visited these campuses, is there anything that you found out that you didn't expect, or that surprised you when you maybe stopped at a Baldwin Wallace, or you stopped at at an Ohio university? Anything that you're surprised by?
Not necessarily surprised, but encouraged. Sure, I've learned new things. Some of the things, like in the healthcare space, some of the new technologies and labs, and some of the actually funding that we've provided to universities and community colleges throughout the state to assist them in this endeavor. But I really believe that higher education is more affordable than some people think.
Okay.
I met with some high school students this morning and talked to them about, make sure that if someone tells you it's not affordable, take another look. Ask more questions. Go on the website. Look at financial aid. Look at scholarships, academic and financial scholarships. All kinds of things that the institution itself, whether it's BGSU or an independent university or a community college or a training center, a trades program.
Right.
All kinds of opportunities in Ohio, and oftentimes, we have fewer high school graduates coming from high school now into a college age.
Right.
And because of that, it's more competitive. And these universities and colleges want you to be students of theirs. So make your case and strive to, if that's what's right for you. There's probably an affordable way to get there. And I encourage people not to turn their head if they think that there's a path forward. Take a good hard look at it, because it's between need-based scholarships and other institutional aid. We have caps on tuition in Ohio now. We actually had the slowest rate of growth in tuition in the country in the last 10 years. A lot of people don't realize that. So we're doing as much as we can, and perhaps we'll strive to do even more to make education affordable. So I encourage people to do that.
Okay. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about one of the programs is College Credit Plus, which of course allows high school students, and actually I guess in some cases even junior high students, to start to take college classes. So let's talk a little about some of those initiatives that get people into the college setting or the higher education setting maybe a little faster than traditionally we would have thought.
Great.
We'll be back in just a moment with Randy Gardner, the Chancellor of the Ohio Department of Higher Education, here on Talking 419. Thank you for staying with us here on Talking 419. Our guest is Randy Gardner, the Chancellor of the Ohio Department of Higher Education. One of the things and one of the opportunities, the challenges, the state has tried to make a more comprehensive effort to connect pre-K through 12 with higher education. And some of those programs are already in place, but talk a little about that whole package of things. Some of them predate Governor DeWine, but he's of course heavily involved in making sure that continues and grows as an opportunity for students in Ohio.
Well, there's no question that the phrase lifelong learning starts, of course, very early in one's life, and we want to continue. We actually have 1.5 million Ohioans who are adults who have some college but not a degree, which is just a stunning number. And so because of our economy, because of the fewer number of high school graduates, to really support Ohio's economy and Ohio's workforce, we need to bring back adults who have gone to college and stopped out or dropped out at some point, and encourage them to get their degree. They can be a little stronger participant in the workforce if they have that credential or certificate or degree. So having said that, we also look at making sure that young people, those in high school, for example, make sure they know about the opportunity they have to get college credit before they leave high school. Something called College Credit Plus, that about 12% of our public school students participate in around the state. Over the last 3 years, $416.5 million in college savings has been generated by the College Credit Plus program, where a student can take a credit on a high school campus or a university campus and simultaneously receive credit for both their high school coursework and a college credit. So that's going on in the state. There are a number of universities and colleges that do a really fine job in working with that. And high schools, it varies from high school to high school, but at least we provide the opportunity. I had someone ask me the question last week, why should we rush them? Why should we push them? And my answer is, we shouldn't push them. We should provide opportunity. Education is not about telling people what they should know and when they should know it. It's about encouraging them, offering opportunity for them. If they want to go faster and further, and it makes sense, if it's accredited, if there's quality, there's appropriate academic rigor, we should provide those opportunities for students. And yes, they can reduce their overall cost to a college degree if they participate in the program. But it should be up to the student and the family to make that decision. But at the end of the day, we are strengthening that program. We are building on that. There are a number of other things that we have done in terms of under the umbrella of affordability. Choose Ohio First is a STEM-related program in Ohio. That went from $16 million in fiscal year 19. In 2 years, it'll be $40 million in Ohio. So more opportunity for students in the STEM field: science, technology, engineering, mathematics, medicine, and also computer science. A new emphasis on computer science in the Choose Ohio First scholarship program, up to $7,900 for students per year to support their education in the STEM fields. So that's another strong program that we offer at the state level. Another one is called OCOG, the Ohio College Opportunity Grant. It's need-based financial aid. And students on this campus at Bowling Green State University and throughout the state are benefiting from that. Those that meet the eligibility, the need-based financial qualifications of that program. It was the largest year-to-year increase in the Ohio College Opportunity Grant in the last 12 years. Governor DeWine strongly believes that affordability and access are still very important in Ohio, and so he supported that program. So there are just a variety of things that as the chancellor I get to be involved in, encouraging, advocating, helping write budgets in these areas, and it's exciting. Yeah,
well, and helping people be aware that those exist too, because a lot of those programs, you look at the department's website, it is incredibly comprehensive, lots of information there, but getting people to know, to go there, to look at it, that sort of thing.
One thing, if I could interject, FAFSA, the FAFSA program, the federal program, the free application for financial aid, 39% of Ohioans who are eligible for financial aid don't complete the FAFSA. And so if anybody's watching this program, and I know it's complicated, and I know it's time-consuming and cumbersome, but sometimes you're not even eligible for academic scholarships if you don't complete that, let alone the need-based financial aid. We leave, I think the estimate is now $72 million on the table in Ohio. Students leave on the table in financial support by not completing the FAFSA. So we're 15th in the state in completion. So we're in the upper half, but we're still not as strong as we can be. So we encourage more students to complete that form so that they can be potentially eligible for thousands of dollars in additional financial aid. So that's all part of our affordability and access program in the state, and we just thought I would mention that. This is officially FAFSA completion month in Ohio, so I better say
you made your pitch, you got it in there.
Right at the end of the month, on the last day of the month.
And again, that's money that's available. That's opportunities that's available. Now, one of the things too, when we talk about higher education, traditionally we think four-year colleges, maybe even two-year colleges, but two-year colleges and other programs that get people into other types of professions are just as important, because we're looking at trade people, that sort of thing, positions that pay incredibly good money, are skills that are needed around. So the Department of Higher Education has to work with that. It isn't just the traditional 4-year, the mindset that we've had for a lot of years, that it's all about 4-year or even just 2-year colleges. There's a lot more to it than that.
Actually, maybe one thing that did surprise me, to the degree that the Department of Higher Education is involved in adult career centers and adult career programs.
Right.
Penna Career Center, for example, here in Wood County, and there are another of other career centers in greater Northwest Ohio that might be part of watching this program tonight. They're a very important part. Ohio Technical Centers, we have 54 of those around the state.
Right.
And so what I believe that the cabinet should do, the department should do, the governor should do, is we need to provide as much information as possible to every person, both adult and those going through junior high and high school, as much information as possible about what the in-demand jobs are, what the wages might be, what the education attainment requirements are, and the opportunities in Ohio to be part of our state's future, our state's economy. We owe them all as much information as possible. We have some of the best trades programs, apprenticeship programs in the whole country right here in Northwest Ohio. We also have some great independent private institutions of higher education, community colleges, 4-year public schools. We have so many things to offer. The greatest thing about Ohio is we have more diversity and opportunity and options for students. If you're interested in a career, in an occupation, in an education program, you can find it here in the state of Ohio. There's a place for you in Ohio. Those are my words, and I'm standing by them. And would love to share that story with anyone who wants to contact the department and make sure that you have all that information, because the diversity and the options and the opportunities in Ohio are endless, no question.
Good. Well, we'll be back in just a moment with more from Randy Gardner, Chancellor of the Ohio Department of Higher Education, here on Talking 419. Thank you for staying with us here on Talking 419. Our guest is Randy Gardner, the 10th Chancellor of the Ohio Department of Higher Education, longtime state legislator, has been on this particular position for about 9 months now. One of the things you talked about and did a great job of getting that information out is the accessibility, the opportunities and programs, facilities, all of that around the state. On the other hand, some people would say, why does Ohio have so many brick and mortar facilities all over? Isn't that waste? Haven't we overdone it, especially in this age of technology where you don't have to have brick and mortar? But talk about that, because Ohio has always been very good at making sure people had access. Back before there was the internet, universities, schools, all of that were accessible. So address that issue when people say, gee, we have too many. Can't we consolidate? Can't we cut back? Aren't we wasting money there with all these facilities?
I think that's actually I think it's a great question. It's a challenging question. One of my favorite questions, because then it gives me a chance to say,
you're prepared.
Maybe if I was on game day on ESPN, not so fast. No, actually, I think the number of institutions, the diversity of the institutions, the variety of options that we offer in the state is actually a clear Ohio strength. For example, let's just take Northwest Ohio. So you can go to Bowling Green State University, the University of Toledo. You can go to Owens Community College. You can go to Findlay or Lourdes. You can go to Northwest State or Terra. You can go to Mercy College in nursing and a variety of other programs, all within about 30 miles here, 40 miles. What tremendous opportunities. Now you don't even have to choose one. Owens Community College, for example, has something they call Euler Express. You can simultaneously become a student at Owens Community College. You're simultaneously enrolled at the University of Findlay. You have a 2+2 program, the same advisors. They help work you through it. And after one semester at Owens, you're officially enrolled in Findlay. And so a public institution and an independent private institution working together. Same at Grey Wolf Express, Lourdes, they have that too. And they have Falcon Express and they have Rocket Express. So I think the new age now of higher education is you better listen and change and be more adaptable to the learning needs and the career expectations and options of future students, or you're going to lose, quote, market share. You're going to have fewer students coming to your campus, and you may not do very well unless. So you have to meet those needs. You mentioned technology, blended online learning, that has its place. I think I hope there's never a day when everything is just internet-based, web-based, online-based, because I still think the personal interactions on college campuses are still important. But for those who prefer not to do that and prefer to go online, they have that option too. And I think, candidly, universities, colleges need to be engaged in that enterprise at some level, or they're going to lose again and not become an option of choice for many students. But no, I do believe that there shouldn't be, in the public realm, I don't think we need 14 law schools or 14 medical schools or 14 engineering schools when you're looking at public universities, for example. But I also don't think there should be only one English department or one history department or one computer science department. So you have to have a balance of not having too much duplication, but also not deciding. You know, one of my favorite quotations in public life has been from Thomas Sowell, who said that it's in government and politics, it's not what's best is the most important question, is who gets to decide what's best. And I don't think the chancellor or the governor or bureaucrats in Columbus should make every decision about what kind of education is offered throughout the state. A board of trustees should still be very engaged in that. Local university and college leaders and communities should be involved in deciding what they need and what they believe is best. So I do think we should try to avoid unnecessary duplication. I think we should expect more of our colleges and universities working with the business community, meeting the demands, the in-demand jobs of today and the future, and in terms of workforce preparation. But I don't think it should be a top-down, Columbus knows best attitude of telling BGSU or UT or Owens or anyone else in this region or anywhere else in the state, this is what you must do. We're going to encourage them. We're going to push them to be part of our state agenda, but we're not going to impose a lot of mandates. I don't think that's Mike DeWine's philosophy of government. I know it's not, and it's certainly not mine.
Now, one of the things we look at that too is the state has been, as I say, very good about providing accessibility. And of course now, as we mentioned, College Credit Plus. Your role now in higher education, when you were in the legislature, you represented higher education, pre-K through 12. How's the balance work now? Because people are competing for budget dollars in Columbus. The pre-K through 12 people have an agenda that fits what they need to do. How do you now, as higher education, balance your goals in higher education to make sure everybody gets to the table and you were able to work with everybody and negotiate good packages, good arrangements for everybody in the state?
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure anyone's really asked it in that way. So really well. Unfortunately, really well asked there, Steve. But no, I think this. I think that just because I'm the chancellor and officially kind of like the CEO of the Department of Higher Education, it doesn't mean I should be parochial in my interest in the higher ed budget or in higher ed policy, because people are frustrated that people don't work together and they don't collaborate. Well, if they're frustrated that universities don't collaborate, communities don't collaborate together, then they ought to be frustrated if a chancellor can't work with the state superintendent of schools. So I'm not going to walk away from a healthy respect for the pre-K 12 and up system. I still, I was at my alma mater, Eastwood High School, this week. I love going back to talk to students at Eastwood High School. So I still have a great respect there. And so now I'm involved in working directly with the Department of Education, the K-12, in a number of different, for example, the College Credit Plus program is one of those examples. And there are a number of other ones that we get ready for the transition from high school to college. You need them working together. So I think we've got a good relationship, a good balance. And I'm not going to walk away from my K through 12 priorities, even while I'm have the privilege of overseeing the higher education system.
Well, we'll get you out on this one. When the time comes that you decide, you know what, I don't want to be the chancellor of higher ed anymore. Maybe another opportunity comes, and maybe you're saying, no, I'm going to go sit on a beach someplace. I'm going to come back to Wood County and relax around my pond at my house, on the west side of Bowling Green. What would you like people to remember about Randy Gardner's legacy as the chancellor of higher ed?
Well, you know what? That's another. When you think about it, I'm nine
I know
months.
you're early in the
I'm
curve.
9 months old, and so I don't want him to start I don't want him to start hoping for that.
No, but
you know what?
If today had to say what would it be, what would you think it would be?
We gave more opportunity for both adults who want to come back into the college system and for young people to realize their dreams, advance their careers, and do so in the state of Ohio to whatever extent we can offer that opportunity. I want to make Ohio a priority. I want Ohio to be a destination state for higher education. And I just want to provide an opportunity in working with lots of other people in the state, thousands of other people in the state, to elevate higher education to the role that it can be for young people's lives and the future economy of the state. I think if Ohio is going to be stronger economically, it needs a strong higher education system. It needs healthy, productive colleges, universities. BGSU, for example, I have a great pride in BGSU as someone who came here, and the president of BGSU, Rodney Rogers, is just so engaged and very respected around the state. The president of University of Taylor, Sharon Gaber, is now the president of the entire 14-member IUC. Great people to work with, and many others. Steve Robinson at Owens Community College. Now that I've started, I'm going to need 5 more minutes to mention everybody. I apologize for that.
Well,
great people to work with, though, and people that are really committed. People would be surprised at just how committed those who work at our college and universities are in helping young people. I mean, it's just an award-winning, student engagement. There's a university in this state that's number 3 in the entire country in public universities in student engagement. Maybe I should mention who they are, but it's about a quarter mile from the WBGU studios. But it's that kind of value added that many universities bring to the table, and colleges bring to the table, and our trades apprenticeship programs bring to the table, our adult career centers bring to the table. I'm just excited that a teacher from a small rural community in Ohio grew up in Lucky, Ohio, live in Bowling Green. Gets to do these things, and
got to teach at Otsego. I'll throw that in for
got to teach at Otsego. Absolutely, that's what I meant. Tontogany, the big village of Tontogany, Ohio. So shout out to Tontogany.
Yeah, there we go.
So it's just been a great privilege to be able to do all these things, and I'm going to try to spend another 2 or 3 years working hard to build what you just referred to. But with Governor DeWine, we have a real opportunity to build this state, and I'm excited for the privilege of doing it.
Yeah, and we're good. We're lucky to have you there. We're good to have you there because you've been an advocate for higher education and education in general across states. So he picked the right man. He picked the right guy.
Well, thank you for saying so.
Randy Gardner, the Chancellor of the Ohio Department of Higher Education. You can check us out at WBGU.org and, of course, watch us every week on WBGU-TV. We will see you again next time.